Sejam aí todos muito bem-vindos, muito bem-vindas. Eu sou o Tio Ri, bem-vindos ao meu canal aqui de cinema. Nos últimos vídeos a gente falou um pouco das primeiras invenções de imagens animadas que a gente tinha, que eram o praxinoscópio, tinha o kinetoscópio e tinha também o que parecia um catavento, que é o zootrópio. A gente viu todas essas invenções e agora hoje eu gostaria de reagir aqui a um vídeo. Até vocês devem estar percebendo que minha voz está bem ruim. Eu vou reagir a um vídeo de uma colega que permitiu que eu gravasse o vídeo dela. Até meu comentário está aqui embaixo. Tá? Eu pedi para Catherine Moore para poder reagir ao vídeo dela. Então aí ela fala assim, um pouco sobre fotografia, não necessariamente cinema, mas sintam-se bem à vontade a seguir ao canal dela. E Catherine Moore, thank you so much for letting me react to your video. E como eu já tinha dito para ela, eu vou reagir em português, que os meus vídeos são desenhados para o público em português. E vou deixar ela falar um pouco, assim economizo um pouco minha voz.
Of all the world-changing inventions of the 19th century, none has made such a difference to how we view the world as moving pictures. But Louis Le Prince, the man who would capture the world's first moving pictures, would mysteriously vanish, have his invention overshadowed and perhaps even stolen, and wallow in obscurity before being given, in recent years, the attention and credit which he's always deserved. This is the tragic story of the father of film. Now, when we talk about the history of inventions, we tend to focus on a handful of great individuals whilst ignoring all those who contributed to their work. Science isn't a sprint to the finish line, it's a relay race where the torch is passed from one person to another, and everyone who has discovered or invented something has done so while standing on the shoulders of giants. As such, this video isn't just about Louis Le Prince, it's about all the other pioneers who each played their part in the invention of film. Louis Le Prince was born in Metz, in France, in 1841.
O que ela disse até aqui, como eu disse, David Spector, através de elementos químicos, conseguiu encontrar como fazer níveis diferentes para um papel fotográfico reagir, que depois no futuro foi chamado de ISO. A gente teve o Edward Muybridge, que com uma sequência de câmeras, sem querer, inventou a abertura e o fechamento de câmera. Então, quanto de exposição ia ter uma câmera. Então, ele conseguiu juntar essa ideia de ter um ISO e ter uma coisa que ia reagir a 1/8 de segundo. Então, e colocar isso para disparar numa câmera fotográfica. Então, ele conseguiu lentes que conseguiam capturar 1/12 de segundo, 1/8 de segundo. E isso permitiu que ele criasse imagens em movimento. E o Louis Le Prince, vou deixar aqui minha colega falar.
As a child, he spent time in the studio of photography pioneer Louis Daguerre, whose early photographs, known as daguerreotypes, include the earliest known photo of a person in 1838, which required an exposure time of 5 minutes to capture. As an adult, he studied at Leipzig University, where he met Leeds-born engineer John Whitley. They became friends, and in 1866 Whitley invited him to stay in Leeds. 3 years later, he married John's sister Elizabeth, and in 1872 their son, Adolf, was born. People had known for some time that you could create the illusion of motion by moving lots of images very fast, and there were plenty of toys and parlor tricks which could demonstrate this.
Ela está assistindo aqui um filme famoso que são os Cães Sábios, do Etienne. E esse daqui é um praxinoscópio, onde os espelhos estão no centro e a fita está ao redor. Existiam outros muito parecidos que não tinham jogo de espelho, tinham furinhos e você podia olhar. E tinha aquele primeiro que ela estava brincando no começo do vídeo, que é aquele lá, o zootrópio. E ainda tinha mais um tipo com um nome complicado que eu não consigo me lembrar agora.
The real problem came when you tried to capture motion in the real world. In 1878, Edward Maybridge used 12 different cameras in a line to
Eu animei essa fotografia, só que eu usei todos os 24 quadros. Tem no meu canal, nos shorts. Podem acompanhar por lá.
capture images of a galloping horse. These could then be played together to create
Ela
the
animou
illusion
também,
of
então tudo
motion.
bem.
Similarly, in 1882, Etienne Jules Murray invented a photographic gun which could take 12 images per second.
Uma curiosidade do Tien, ele conseguiu esses feitos, mas ele não seguiu no ramo das artes. O Etienne Jules, depois ele foi para um ramo de medicina. Podem ver que ele tirava fotografias em cima de um mesmo papel e capturava esses movimentos montados em cima de um mesmo papel. Ele depois foi um dos pais, aí, um dos avós dos exames por imagem na medicina.
Using this, he discovered that cats always land on their feet. But these weren't proper motion picture cameras as we know them today. It would take someone else to put all these ideas together and improve on them. To learn more about Louis Le Prince, I'm going to the National Science and Media Museum in Bradford, the UNESCO City of Film.
Aí, para os meus colegas do Parla Podcast, agora só o Parla, né, no Instagram, e eu gostaria de um dia a gente marcar uma visita guiada aí no Museu de Mídia, para a gente poder fazer uma visita aí, falar um pouco de filosofia lá nesse museu.
Hi, I'm Tony. I'm the curator of film at the National Science and Media Museum. We're in the centre of Bradford and we're open every day and we look at the history of all of our popular media and this is one of our star objects.
So the museum has not one but two of the Prince's cameras. So with so many of the early prototypes going missing throughout history, how did the museum come to acquire the two?
So the two cameras came to us directly from the Le Prince family. In 1930, a plaque was opened in Leeds celebrating his work, and his daughter Marie came over from New York to be part of that ceremony. And with her, she brought these two cameras. At that time, she presented them to the Science Museum in London. We're part of the same organisation. One of our focuses is film, and so they ended up with us here in Bradford.
Brilliant. So tell me a bit about the first camera that Louis made.
So the first one is a little bit peculiar. It's a 16 lens camera because it's got 16 lenses in it.
Essa imagem aqui, essa câmera, ela é muito parecida com a câmera do Edward Muybridge. Vocês devem ter visto aí a Galloping Horse no meu canal de shorts. Eu também tenho o segundo Galloping Horse, que ele conseguiu tirar fotografias de frente e de perfil. Nessa segunda animação, que já está aí online lá no canal de cortes, nos shorts, ele tirou com uma câmera muito similar, só que eram de 2 em 2 lentes que o Edward Muybridge utilizou. Então ele criava um grande papel, nesse grande papel tirava várias fotografias, né, vários quadradinhos fotográficos, e depois compilava. Vocês vão perceber que em um deles o ângulo vai da esquerda para a direita, assim, enquanto o cavalo está galopando, não dá para perceber tanto, mas quando é tirado de frente, você vê o ângulo mudando e subindo. Então é sempre direita e esquerda, assim, até dá uma impressão 3D quando você assiste o vídeo.
He made that in Paris in 86, 87 and managed to film a very short sequence with it. one of those cameras that we don't often refer to as the first cine camera because of its construction. Because it's using 16 lenses, it's actually taking 16 separate photographs, one through each lens, which are then put back together again for potential projection. So it's slightly different. It's more like sequential photography than it is actual cinematography or filmmaking.
Só lembrando, depois, o intuito era recortar isso e colocar naqueles brinquedos que a gente viu no início do vídeo. Que seriam os carrosséis girando essa imagem e teria uma restringiria a nossa visão através de furinhos, ou realmente tem esses espelhos no centro que iriam refletir uma imagem por vez, criando essa ilusão de movimento, girando as imagens. Por isso que eram também pensando em 12, 16, né, 8 quadros por segundo para 16 seriam 2 segundos, 8, os 12 frames, né, de 24 frames, seriam 2 segundos a 12 frames por segundo. Então, também sempre pensando nessas proporções de quantas fotos eles tiraram.
So we probably realised the limitations of this 16 lens camera quite quickly. So what did he do next?
Yeah, he probably did. It's like any new technology. It's a prototype, it's an experiment, seeing if it works, and there are lots of drawbacks with the 16 lens camera. Not least because you're taking 16 images from slightly different positions, so if you try and put them together as a piece of
E eu falei,
footage, they
esse
don't quite
problema de
line up.
paralaxe.
So moving on from that, it became evident that you need to use a single lens, which is when you get onto his next camera, which is exactly what he did. The camera itself has got 2 lenses at the front, but one of them is a viewfinder, so where the actual operator would look through, and the other one is the taking lens. So every image is taken through a single lens, so you don't have that problem of parallax of things looking different from different viewpoints.
Brilliant. I mean, it's really remarkable to actually have the world's first motion picture camera right here. Is there anything more we should know about it?
It's an unusual looking camera, I think you can see when you look at it. It works in exactly the same way as cine cameras came to work after France's time. There are some slightly different bits with it. So if you look at a traditional cine camera, it's a single strip of film moving in front of a single lens, which is held in position momentarily while the shutter opens to let the light in, captures an image, the film moves on when the shutter closes. So all of that has to be brought together to move and work together absolutely perfectly.
Outra coisa, Louis Le France foi o primeiro a usar esses filmes flexíveis, que eram o rolo de filme, né, o rolo de filme fotográfico, usar esse filme flexível, esse filme de celuloide, para mesmo fazer rolos de filme, né, animados, já pensando em projeções mais longas.
Which this one did. There are certain elements which it doesn't have, so if you look at a traditional piece of film, it has sprocket holes down the side, lots of little holes which then connect with a mechanism inside the camera to hold it in position. Le France didn't think of sprocket holes, so when you see the films themselves, you can see the films moved a little bit, so the register isn't great, but you know, he was there and he knew what he was doing and he knew the basic principles of how to make this thing work.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. It's really great to hear someone who clearly knows so much about how cameras work, so thank you.
You're very welcome. It's great to be able to talk about Le France and let people get to know a little bit more about him. He wasn't terrifically successful, he's been lost a little bit to history, but I think if we can remember what he was trying to achieve, and to a degree achieved, several years before cinema arrived in everybody's lives, he's an important figure.
On the 14th of October 1888, at his home near Roundy Park, he captures the world's first moving pictures of his family enjoying an ordinary autumn day. In another film, he captures his young son playing the accordion.
Essa também é uma cena de Londres, Louis
His
de France.
workshop was at 160 Woodhouse Lane in
Ele
Leeds,
filmou
which is somewhere right here.
muitas
It's
cenas da
incredible to
Inglaterra.
think that over 100 years ago, he was developing his cameras right here. I used to walk to my sixth form college up this road every day for 2 years, and I had no idea that this was here. Louis was far more focused on the camera's social as opposed to commercial potential. He believed that it was a tool which could educate, connect, and liberate the people of the world. After securing a patent for his camera in 1888, he wanted to present it in New York, in what would probably have been the world's first public premiere of a moving picture. In September 1890, he decided to visit his brother in Dijon before leaving for America. After boarding a train to Paris, he was never seen again. Both the British and French police, as well as his family, undertook extensive searches, but no trace of him was ever found. He was declared legally dead on the 16th of September 1897. Naturally, wild theories have emerged as to what happened. Now, there's a lot of videos made about his disappearance, and I feel that by focusing too much on the morbid details of his demise, we shift the focus away from his achievements. But I also know that the viewer wants to know what happened to him, so that's what I'll give you. Probably the most famous theory is that he was assassinated on the orders of Thomas Edison, who wanted to take credit for the invention himself. Just a few weeks after Louis' disappearance, Edison filed what was essentially a placeholder patent for a camera very similar to Le Prince's, known as a kinetoscope. The US Patent Office in 1883 ruled that Edison's patent for the electric light bulb was invalid because it was based on work by William E. Sawyer, and despite the English inventor Joseph Swan creating and patenting his electric light bulb entirely independently of Edison, and both men receiving patents for theirs the same year, Edison sued Swan for copyright infringement. Edison also patented an improvement to Alexander Graham Bell's telephone, but the improvement had already been independently invented by David Edward Hughes, who chose not to patent it because he believed that it was for public good. But because Edison got the patent, he got all the credit. One really sad example of this is that in 1888, William Fries Green created some type of motion camera, we don't know what, and actually sent the details of it to Edison, like a chicken wandering into the path of a hungry fox. And unsurprisingly, William died penniless in 1921, never receiving the credit or revenue for something which he undoubtedly helped create. The point is, Edison was not afraid to take credit for work he didn't do, and it's something of a coincidence that he assigned his assistant, William Kennedy Dixon, to start work on the kinetoscope just a month after Louis disappeared. When Dixon later started his...
Também um otoscópio, né? Eu vi um pessoalmente no Museu do Sexo, em Amsterdã. E sim, como era uma coisa que você podia ver as outras pessoas no storyboardinho que está ali dentro. Existia uma maquininha dessa com pornografia dentro. Em alguns lugares na Europa toda. Né? Não sei dizer se tem... Provavelmente existiam nos Estados Unidos, mas pela Europa existiam vários desses pequenos filminhos que daria para rodar assim, com ações repetidas e repetitivas.
His own company, American Mutoscope, it was sued by Edison in 1898, and Louis' son Adolf was brought in by the defense as a witness to testify that Le Prince had actually invented the first motion camera, in the hope that this would render Edison's patent null and void. Coincidentally or not, 3 years later, Adolf died in a duck hunting accident in New York. In addition, in 1891, just a few months after Louis' disappearance, his widow was on a boat from New York to Manhattan when she saw Edison talking to an attorney who had once advised Louis on patents. All of this is circumstantial, and there's no real serious evidence of Edison's role in Louis' disappearance, so regardless of what might have happened, the fact remains that in 1893, with the first public premiere of the kinetoscope, Edison's legacy was sealed. He was crowned as the inventor of the motion picture, whilst the prince languished in obscurity. But one final thing. In 1876, Wordsworth Donisthorpe from Leeds applied for a patent for a motion picture camera. An early model of this was built, but as nothing is known of its experiments and the fact that he wouldn't return to the idea until after Le Prince had succeeded with his camera, it's reasonable to assume that this prototype didn't work. The 19th century was a time of tremendous invention, with so many brilliant minds struggling with the biggest technological problems of the day.
Foi a época das patentes. Até por isso que tem esse monte de briga por patente. E Thomas Edison normalmente estava... era um nome relevante nessa época de patentes. Mas eu considero o Louis de France um dos grandes inventores aí do cinema, por usar a fotografia e já estar pensando num projetor.
Eager to break through and be the first to claim invention of something that would change the world. It's remarkable that there were two people in the same place at the same time, working neck and neck on the same idea. Science is all about cooperation, of working together for the common good, and every runner in the scientific relay race is just as vital as the one who crosses the finish line.
Mais uma vez, obrigado, Catherine Moore, pelo seu conteúdo. Muito feliz de poder ter participado e reagido ao seu conteúdo. E ao público do meu canal. Depois deixem aí o que vocês acharam. Curta, compartilha, comenta, liga o sininho, faz tudo que vocês sabem que deve ser feito aí. E espero estar com uma voz melhor em breve. E provavelmente eu vou reagir a todos os filmes que eu encontrar online do Le Prince e que estiverem em domínio público. Então aí, até a próxima, pessoal.